a small town in western Massachusetts. Sculptor Ben Ryan, his wife Carolyn, a respected doctor, and their children, Jacob and Judith, are an ordinary family. They have no idea that something is about to happen that will divide their lives into before and after. Dr. Carolyn Ryan loves her work and cares deeply about every patient, so she is devastated when Martha Taverner, who was admitted in critical condition, dies on the operating table. Someone attacked the poor girl and left her lying in the snow. Martha was doomed from the start, but the medical team still did everything they could. That same evening, Sheriff Fran Conklin, an old family friend, shows up at the Ryans' door. Fran finds it very difficult to tell them that 16-year-old Jacob is the prime suspect because witnesses saw him with Martha Taverner shortly before her body was found. Martha had an after-school job selling ice cream, and Jacob supposedly picked her up. This is the first the couple has heard of their son having a girlfriend. Either way, the sheriff needs to speak to Jacob, but the young man is not in his room, even though his parents thought he was. Carolyn believes there must be a simple explanation. She is more concerned that Jacob may have been hurt too. What if he and Martha were attacked together? Fran Conklin insists on searching Jacob's car, but Ben refuses. When the sheriff asks Judith if she has any idea where her brother is, Ben finally loses patience and demands that Fran get a warrant first. The sheriff can arrange that if the Ryans refuse to cooperate voluntarily. The couple decides not to waste any time and searches the house from top to bottom. Ben also searches Jacob's car, where he finds a pair of blood-stained gloves and several other items. At that moment, Ben feels the ground give way beneath his feet. Could Jacob really be involved? But whatever his son may have done, Ben will fight for him to the very end. Meanwhile, Judith mentions that Jacob was furious that morning. He even said he probably would not go to school. Carolyn asks her daughter to explain exactly what happened. Judith says Jacob had another argument with their father. Ben refused to give his son money to rent an expensive car, even though Jacob had already promised all his friends he would take them for a ride. Judith knows that Jacob had been dating Martha since September. For some reason he was in no hurry to tell his parents about it. Judith promised her brother she would keep it a secret, but that no longer matters. She was badly frightened by Jacob's argument with their father. Meanwhile, Ben burns all the evidence from Jacob's car and washes the jack, which also has blood on it. Soon afterward, the police arrive with a search warrant. The situation is far more serious than Ben and Carolyn could have imagined. The sheriff finds it suspicious that Ben has been in the garage this entire time. Fran will not be able to help him if Ben keeps acting so foolishly and obstructing the investigation. The police will learn the truth anyway. The sheriff quickly finds signs that Ben has already been rummaging through the trunk of Jacob's car. Fran does not appreciate being treated like an idiot. The car is now being impounded, and they are going to search Jacob's room immediately. Ben objects to having his son's room searched, but the police have the right to inspect every corner of the house. Right in front of the couple, the officers turn everything upside down. Powerless to stop them, Ben is consumed by rage. Fran finds a photograph of Martha in Jacob's room, proving that the two knew each other. Ben objects that this does not mean Jacob had anything to do with her death. But the fact remains, Jacob disappeared as soon as the body was found, and that cannot be a mere coincidence. Amid the commotion, Ben pulls his wife aside and whispers that the entire trunk of Jacob's car was covered in blood. Carolyn is horrified. Ben assures his wife that he burned everything and took the jack apart and washed it. But Ben did not have much time, so the police may still find something. Carolyn cannot understand how her husband could have been so reckless. He should never have destroyed the evidence because that can only make matters worse. Fran Conklin is no fool and will figure everything out. The police finish their search. Wendell By, the family's attorney, urges them to tell him everything they know. Wendell is not their enemy, he loves Jacob, attended every one of his school plays, and even lent him $50 for a new bicycle last year. Carolyn is just about to tell the attorney about the concealed evidence when the house phone suddenly rings. Rumors of Jacob's involvement in Martha's death have already spread through town. Ben comforts his crying wife. The next morning, Carolyn goes to the cordoned-off crime scene. Concerned townspeople have already created a makeshift memorial for Martha. Carolyn is desperate because there is still no word from Jacob. She puts up missing person flyers around town. Despite everything, Carolyn has no intention of missing work. Ben thinks this is a bad idea, but his wife wearily replies that the world does not revolve around them and their problems. The hospital needs her. Martha's death has shaken the entire town. On the school bus, Judith feels the other children staring at her. Everyone already knows that her missing brother is the prime suspect. That night, the couple cannot sleep. Ben is afraid they will never see their son again. Carolyn holds her husband and tells him they must not lose hope. One day a postcard arrives from Jacob saying that he is in Boston and has to go even farther away. At least the couple now knows that their son is alive because the handwriting is his, although Carolyn is convinced that Jacob was forced to write it. Ben does not agree with his wife that they should tell Fran Conklin about the postcard. If the police get permission to monitor their mail and tap their phone, Jacob will stop sending them messages. The police will surely launch a citywide manhunt in Boston, and Jacob will run again. They will never know where he has gone. Ben does not want their son to be caught. Carolyn feels that what they are doing is wrong, but the man manages to persuade her. People around town whisper behind Ben and Carolyn's backs, calling their son a murderer. The woman goes to work every day, and forces herself to ignore the sidelong looks from her colleagues and patients. Over the next several weeks, postcards from Jacob continue to arrive from different cities. Then one day Jacob is arrested, and his family learns about it from the news. Apparently the teenager has been hiding at a friend's house all this time. At the first opportunity, the couple visits their son at the juvenile detention center so they can speak to him before the attorney does. Jacob does not say a word or even look at his parents. When they ask whether he sent the postcards, Jacob remains silent. The townspeople take to the streets with signs demanding that the young offender be denied bail. Everyone wants justice for Martha Taverner. The judge nevertheless rules that the young man is not a danger to the community, and sets bail at $250,000. Judith is delighted to have her brother home and has baked plenty of cookies, but Jacob remains silent. Judith is deeply upset. Carolyn explains to her daughter that Jacob needs time. None of them knows what he has been through. Ben feels guilty. That day, he yelled at his son and almost struck him. Carolyn does not blame Ben. They must get through this together. It is the only way they can protect both of their children. Wendell By withdraws from the case because the Ryans need a criminal defense attorney. There is little physical evidence against Jacob, but there is circumstantial evidence. Wendell By advises them to contact Panos Damaris, who may have lost only one case in his entire career. This may be Jacob's only chance. It does not matter what Jacob did or did not do, the only thing that matters is what they can prove in court. Panos Damaris agrees to defend Jacob but warns the couple that jurors are often emotional when a case involves such a brutal crime. Damaris can tell the courtroom 100 times that Jacob is a good boy who has never shown any aggression, but the jurors will still have Martha's post-mortem photographs before their eyes. Damaris also makes it clear to the couple that he will not ask for their opinion when deciding on a defense strategy. If necessary, he will say that Jacob is intellectually disabled or was drunk. Jacob has withdrawn into himself and hides in the treehouse he shares with Judith. His parents try to shield Judith from everything their family is going through, but she is old enough to understand. The girl knows that her mother has had to take time off work and that their family has become an outcast in this town. Judith is the first person Jacob speaks to after so many days of silence. The young man confirms that he wrote the postcards. Jacob wanted his family to know that he had not forgotten them. One of the townspeople calls the Ryans and starts saying horrible things about Jacob. But Ben does not care what anyone thinks. He will defend his child to the end, even if the entire town and the entire country turn against them. Realizing that his family, and even his father, do not believe he is guilty brings Jacob relief, and he decides to tell them the truth. On that fateful day, Jacob and Martha argued after she told him she was pregnant. The problem was that Martha was not sure whether the baby was his because she was dating several guys at the same time. This hurt Jacob, but the young couple eventually made up. Everything was fine until the car became stuck in the snow. They tried pushing it, and even put the floor mats under the tires, but the car only sank deeper. Martha suggested using the jack, but even that did not help. The young people began arguing again. Martha insulted Jacob, saying that her other boyfriends were more capable. The verbal exchange turned into a fight. Jacob was so angry that he snapped. The young people grappled with each other. At one point Martha grabbed a tire iron and swung it at Jacob, missing him by only an inch. He shoved her in response. Martha fell and struck the jack. Jacob was in shock, unable to comprehend that she was not breathing. He deeply regrets what happened. At least Ben and Carolyn now know the truth. The woman is convinced that Jacob should tell the same story in court because he did not mean to kill her. Ben, however, does not want to rush into anything and intends to discuss it with Damaris first. They are not lawyers and do not know for certain what the right course is. There may be a way to present everything in their favor. The next morning father and son have a heart-to-heart talk. Ben is willing to do anything to save his son from prison. He would rather go to prison in Jacob's place if it comes to that. At that moment Ben admits that he destroyed the evidence, including the weapon used in the crime. Ben sees no choice but to keep quiet. The police have nothing, so they will not be able to charge Jacob. There are witnesses who saw him with Martha, but that proves nothing. Going along with his father, Jacob tells the attorney the version of events they prepared in advance. He argued with Martha, and when he returned for the car, he found her already dead. Jacob panicked and fled to Boston. Damaris is perfectly satisfied with that version. The fact that Martha was pregnant by someone other than Jacob will only work in their favor because they can shift suspicion onto one of her boyfriends. Jealousy is a strong motive. The attorney assures them that if the DNA test confirms Jacob's story, they will have no problems. The young man is truly grateful to his father, but at the same time he is not sure they are doing the right thing. Ben explains to his son that his life depends on it. As a father, Ben could not have acted differently. The greatest insult to a man is to be told that he failed to stand up for his family. Carolyn is unhappy that the decision was made without her. She is convinced that the truth will come out sooner or later. Even if it does not happen now, Jacob will be forced to live in constant fear. From now on, he will be trapped. But Ben could not allow their son to pay for a single mistake for the rest of his life and leave prison as an old man. The test confirms that Jacob is not the father of the baby. Damaris plans to portray Martha in a morally unfavorable light in court. Carolyn increasingly realizes that she wants no part in this. Whatever happened, Martha did not deserve that. Ben grows nervous when he learns that parent-child privilege still does not exempt him from testifying. The intense media interest in the case only adds to the pressure. Ben just wants the ordeal to end as soon as possible. Judith hates that her parents and her brother are planning to lie in court. Jacob is guilty and must take responsibility, even if that means going to prison. It would be the right thing to do. Carolyn knows this and lies awake at night thinking about Martha. Ben meanwhile can think only about saving Jacob. One day shortly before the trial, Carolyn runs into Terry Taverner in the restroom at a blood donation center. Carolyn tries to find the words to express how sorry she is, but Terry refuses to listen. No words can bring Martha back when she should have had her whole life ahead of her. The Ryans are wealthy and can afford expensive lawyers. People like them think they can get away with anything. That evening local teenagers throw a rock through the Ryans' window. Ben chases after the vandals, but it is unlikely to help. The entire town has turned against them. Judith shouts at her parents that this is their fault, that their lies are the reason the family has become outcasts. Jacob realizes that his sister is right. He feels like a coward and thinks both his family and the whole town would be better off if he disappeared. No matter what they do, nothing will ever be the same for them. Jacob is trapped by the situation. If he tells the truth in court, his father will be arrested for obstruction of justice. There is no turning back. Jacob cannot betray his father, but it would not be a betrayal if someone else told the truth. The day of the hearing arrives. Carolyn takes this terrible burden upon herself and reveals the true details of Martha's death in court. She told neither Ben nor Jacob about her plan. Damaris is furious and calls her principles foolish. Naturally, he will not back down and will continue to stand by the original version. His job is to defend his client, not seek the truth. Her statement contradicts Jacob's account, so in court it will be her word against his. Ben cannot believe that his wife acted behind his back. It leads to an argument between them. Carolyn tries to make Ben understand that she did it for Jacob and for all of them. The lie would have destroyed their family. Besides, Martha's parents deserve to know the truth. At one point Jacob cannot take it anymore and shouts at everyone to be quiet. The next morning he is gone. Ben and Carolyn are frantic with worry, believing that their son has run away again. It turns out that Jacob went to the police station to make a confession. Because he is a minor, his confession will not be legally valid until his legal guardians sign it. Jacob also admits that he agreed to lie in court only because he did not want his father to go to prison too. After all, Ben effectively became an accomplice by concealing the evidence. The man says he did it only to protect his son. He does not care what happens to him. In the end, Ben refuses to sign Jacob's confession. He would never do anything that could take his son away from him. Carolyn is willing to sign it. The entire family embraces. Despite everything, Damaris does not withdraw from the case. Taking Jacob's remorse and full voluntary confession without a plea for leniency into account, the judge sentences him to 5 years in prison. Damaris asks Carolyn whether she still believes she did the right thing. 2 years later, Jacob is released on parole. Ben has spent about a year performing community service for concealing evidence. The Ryan family moves to Miami. Anyone's life can be turned upside down in an instant, and there is no way to know in advance when it will happen.